Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they had to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms. Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio, and I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And I'm really glad to have you here today. And if you're listening to this show on Podomatic, you can also find it on iTunes. So you can come to the blog, womenentrepreneursecrets.com, and check on the radio tab in the menu bar, and you can see all the different platforms that the show is available on. Also, some of the shows are shared on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So there's different links there for different ways you can listen in, but of course iTunes is a place you can go and subscribe if you're already on there for different podcasts. You can search for Women Entrepreneurs Radio and subscribe. Hope you do. And if you enjoyed the show, hope also you will leave some feedback or leave a review on iTunes, or if you want to leave it on the blog, or just contact me with any thoughts, or my guest. Of course, you'll find out more about her in a few moments. Certainly do that. We'd love to hear what you think, and if there's any topics that you'd like to hear in the future, that'd be wonderful to let me know. Okay? So we're going to get started today with my guest, Hilary Jastram, and she's the personification of turning pain into purpose. A self-proclaimed reluctant entrepreneur, Hilary found success in serving the highest producing entrepreneurs in Fortune 500 companies through her editing and writing business, J. Hill Marketing. As a chronically ill entrepreneur, helping others craft their missions and messages wasn't enough. She wanted to improve the resources and support for entrepreneurs who are sick and disabled to help them find their own brand of success. In September 2017, she launched Sick Biz, the only organization of its kind in a nonprofit organization to help this very special community. So welcome to the show, Hilary. Really glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Deborah.
Well, this really is something that I haven't really heard of before, but it makes so much sense to have this kind of organization and focus as well, because it's something I think a lot of people don't really talk about in terms of business. And, very much that people have all kinds of issues that they have to deal with at the same time. So I think this is really interesting and really great to shine a light on this. But, I just wanted to start off, as I usually do, asking entrepreneurs how they got started and what really led you to say, okay, I'm going to, start the original business. And then, we're going to talk more about the Sick Biz that you recently launched.
Sure. So I am a self-proclaimed reluctant entrepreneur. And the reason that I am is because after a tough childhood, I found myself getting back on track. I was married a couple of times. I had children young. I was in a very reactionary state for decades of my life. I had a ravenous eating disorder. I know that's a very ironic statement, but that's what it was. And then I kind of pulled it together. I went back to college in my 30s, majoring in marketing and advertising, and I was able to then procure a job with a large regional furniture company as their web content admin, and I was having a blast. Now, in the back of my mind, and I had always done some sort of, soft peddling on the side business. I would copyright for people, couple of realtors here and there, things like that. Mm-hmm. Though I had a very small and erratic side business, but what happened was in April of 2014, and this was around April Fool's Day. So I refer to this as the worst April Fool's Day joke ever.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So, I noticed that I was experiencing tingling sensations in my feet when I would get out of the shower and dry off. My skin, from a sensory standpoint, still felt wet, although it was dry to the touch. And then I experienced leg weakness. I had vertigo for 7 months. It was like being seasick for 7 months, and I still have it to some degree. Mm-hmm. It's a personal definition of hell. If anybody's thinking of trying it, I don't recommend it at all. Just a little,
right.
Just a pro tip, you know.
Right.
And so then I, after 5 months and 3 neurologists, I was diagnosed with transverse myelitis, which is a rare neurological disorder. Only 1,400 Americans are diagnosed each year. There is no funding. There are no research dollars. And I had to give up my dream job. Even the furniture company wheeled up this spicy red little mini recliner for me to sit in my cube so that I could work on my laptop and try and alleviate some of the vertigo. Mm-hmm. And it just wasn't enough. So I had to file for unemployment. We amicably split ways because they did nothing wrong. They had a criteria. They had to-dos to fill. I was unable to fulfill them. I'm still in contact with them. They were the most compassionate, caring people that I've ever worked with. So the rug was ripped out, and I was very, very sad, and I was grieving. I was grieving many things. And I didn't understand why I was finally doing things right, only to have it ripped away. So then all I knew to do was work, and I started working. I kicked my little side business into overdrive and became an established DBA in January of 2015. And I sent out, and this is something that I advise people to do. If you find yourself in a knockdown, drag-out situation, send out 250 emails. You know 250 people. You do. And make it personal. These are not cut and paste template emails. These are, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. This is what's going on with me. What's going on with you? This is survival. So that's what I did. I focused on the work more than I focused on anything. And at points, I was very grateful for that because work is a fantastic distractor. I lost track of how many people I reached out to, and the work started coming in. I closed a large national hotel company and became one of their premier copywriters. And from there, that builds confidence. So it led me to take greater risks. And then I pitched Ryan Stewman on being his editor. And he said, that's so funny because I was looking for an editor. And I was just thinking that I should find one. And serendipitously, I fall into his lap. So, but you do one thing and you leverage it. You leverage that confidence. And so that's exactly what I did. And I've just continued on from that. I built J Hill Marketing and Creative Services. I had been focusing on the digital marketing aspect and using subcontracting graphic designers and people in those specialties. This past year, based on a conversation that I had with a friend of mine who said, I don't know what the hell you do.
Oh my goodness.
It was good information. And I just started laughing because life is too short to take so seriously. And it is those insights that we get from outside perspective that are so valuable. So that day I said, I'm done doing all graphic design. I'm gonna outsource it. I'm gonna gift it off to my subcontractor, who was phenomenal. She's far better than I at it, and it's not a place where I want to focus my energy. So then I got very, very focused, hyper-focused on that niche, and in particular the book editing niche. And when you do that, and when you position yourself as the only expert in the field, as somebody who is capitalizing on a market need, they will come. It's like Field of Dreams. You build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, that's true, though. You're focused in on what it is that you do, and I think a lot of people who start businesses end up thinking, I have to be all things to all people, or I might lose this business, or I might not get that business, and that really is the wrong way to go about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a collaborative effort. That's something that I really focus on, and I am okay with letting go, because as somebody has said in my circle, and I can't remember who it was, but the other thing I want to say is make networking a part of your business. So it's important. The old school thought, and I say old school dating back to 2015, was but we have to be so nimble when it comes to keeping up digitally. But this thought was, reach out in a particular manner to somebody who is an influencer that you would like to be aligned with their mission, etc. But people weren't taking the time to get to know each other as people. Mm-hmm. They were using particular strategies to coax conversation in a direction, and it was very transparent. And not only that, but people have feelings. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going to network with someone, care about them. Understand this is not just looking to capitalize on their skills and that this is going to be a one-way relationship. So network with them in a genuine, authentic capacity of wanting to get to know them. And so this is a part of my regular day. It's what I do. I love meeting people. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a story to tell. Everybody's story is different. There is enough feast on the table for everybody at the table. We don't need to be threatened by each other. Mm-hmm. So I fully support, that community collaboration, and it's very exciting, which leads me to my next point. I don't remember what the heck I was going to say after that.
Maybe it'll come to you. It'll come back. It's like, just a normal day where you just like, you have a thought, then you suddenly are distracted, or you walk into another room. It's like, well, why am I here?
Yes, exactly.
What did I come here for? And, because you're thinking about 10 other things at the same time that you just.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's normal. That's completely normal. Definitely normal. Not a problem there. But yes, you're so right about people wanting to get to know people instead of having an agenda. Because I had gotten contacted by some people on LinkedIn a few years ago. A wave of, I guess, network marketing people or contacting people, and then I remember one conversation I was on, and the person was just going on and on. And, partially it was my fault too, because I should have been like, okay, we're supposed to have this like 20-minute conversation, and he's still going on. And ultimately, it was all about me signing up for something that he was doing. And it wasn't even necessarily so much conversation as it was his agenda to get me to do X. Mm-hmm. And then he was like, oh, well, you write or whatever. I'll get in touch with you about this. And of course he never did, because I wasn't signing up right away to do this thing. So, oh well, on to the next. But it was just so obvious, looking back on it. And then that then makes me go, if anybody else contacts me, what are they about? Are they going to be the same type of person, or do they just want to have a conversation and just make a connection? It just makes you feel a little bit more like I'm going to check, I'm going to check this person out first before I go through that again, because everybody doesn't really know how to communicate with other people.
No. And, and sometimes it's that it's not even a deliberate thing.
Right.
It's more like, you've seen those memes about people who say, well, I'm socially awkward. My kids hear these memes all the time. They're kind of introverted extroverts. And so they'll say, when I meet somebody, I say, hi, I like bread. It's
oh my God.
No, it is a skill that you have to learn. Networking is a skill. And your clumsy efforts are better than no efforts, because you'll continue to learn. You'll continue to hone. You will take in lessons from each of your experiences, and you'll say, wow, that was really effective. Or, wow, that was not effective at all. I'm never going to do it again. And so we can't let our fear stop us. These are just regular people. If they put their pants on the same way we all do, we jump right in, don't we? In the morning, just pick them up, jump in both legs, and we're good to go. So you find that commonality. You're a human being. You have nothing to lose. And in fact, I spoke with one of my clients last week. He shared something with me that was phenomenal. It was, they can't eat you. So, isn't that just great?
That's a good way to put it.
Yes, I had never heard it. I think it's an old Southern saying that somebody had told him they can't eat you, so you will always be okay. You're not going to die of embarrassment. You're not going to keel over from a heart attack from nerves. You will live through it.
Right.
And you'll never have a regret. We don't regret reaching out. We may feel embarrassed about the turn of events or what we didn't know, but I've never met anybody who said, oh yeah, I really regret reaching out and networking to that person. I've never met in my life. Have you?
No, not at all. Definitely not. You just kind of take all those experiences, as you go. And I think that's the thing, people are reluctant, because it may not be something that they're used to doing. And I know when I started out and I went into coach training, a lot of times they were saying, well, you want to coach, you got to go up there and you got to speak and all this. And the thing is that for a lot of people, that was something brand new. They wanted to coach and they may have felt drawn to this particular thing, but then you're saying, well, you got to do all these other things that people may not really have had a comfort level around or felt like, well, what is this, I have to do? So, I wasn't sure if that was really the right way to approach it, because everybody's not that kind of person who is going to stand up in front of a room and, they're not going to do that or not going to feel comfortable in that kind of role. So it always felt like, wow, does it mean that there's only certain people who can do this, or maybe there's a different way to approach this, maybe a different way that people can reach people. And I think you're talking about the digital marketing, things like that. I think a lot of different roads now have been opened up for reaching people, but you still need to have some kind of basic people skills, though. I think. I think they would be nice, but I think you can learn. Like you say, you really can learn how to.
You can, even if you are a severe introvert.
Yeah.
These are almost hacks that you can learn. You can do things like close people on Facebook, for example. You don't have to get on the phone if you're not confident there. If you're more confident on the phone, you can do that. Now, in this day and age, it's recommended that the best practices will say, you should be able to speak to your client in a multitude of digital capacities. But that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you if you're not comfortable doing that. Start where you're comfortable and then branch out a little bit. So just start. I think the biggest thing is accepting yourself.
Yes.
You know, when we get started, we have this high expectation and we believe that everybody is at this perfection level, and it is simply not true. Some of the most effective podcasts, webinars, Facebook Lives, etc., are people genuinely speaking from their heart, stumbling all over their words.
Yes.
Right? But they're still reaching you because that aspect of it is real. And that's what we create an emotional connection to, is this person is just like me. This person's, you know, slops coffee down the front of themselves, right? You know, it's like, this is the new picture everybody in their underwear instead. You know, picture everybody with those silly sippy cups with the coffee coming down their shirt. And you're right. What I tell people too is if you're up there speaking, because I've kind of branched out into helping people write their speeches. If you're up there speaking, think of yourself in an audience. I don't care who you are. I've gone to 11 billion choir concerts for my children. As much as 100% I tried to pay attention. My mind was racing. Well, who was that phone call that I just missed? Who was I? Well, why won't this woman stop breathing down the back of my neck? Doesn't she know about personal space? You know, you're not there 100%.
Right.
So now transport yourself to the stage and imagine your audience is not as dialed in as you would think. So that lessens some of the pressure. And you're not as, like in the spotlight. Right. You know, as you might believe. And people are kind. They're not, you know, they don't have ready-made picket signs to throw up at your first error. Like, boycott the speaker, they're unprofessional. Like, it's not going to happen. Right. It's not going to happen. So it's all mindset and what you tell yourself, which is, that's self-care. Your mindset is self-care. So it's important that we, as much as we slip into that lavender bath bomb, we also make time to cultivate our thoughts for self-care.
So when you were starting your business and, you know, you were going through that transition, how did you get through that, you know, with your mindset? You know, how did you move through that feeling you were saying of grief and now kind of setting like a reset in your life?
Well, you know, you have to allow yourself time to grieve. But it's really important that you acknowledge your feelings, but there's a balancing act that occurs because you have to get through the process to get to your closure. So, and closure doesn't have to mean it's all zipped up and buttoned up and we're never going to look at it again. Closure is, I am at this point in my life. It's a stopping point because life continues on. There will be something else possibly associated with this or something else or whatever. But you get to a stopping point with things. And what was really helpful for me and what I have learned is that I can have a crappy day, just like anybody. I'm not a Pollyanna that's trying to blow sunshine. But I can have a crappy day. The difference is that I will tell myself, you're having a crappy day. You are not living forever in this crappy day. And you can put limits on how long you are going to feel that way. You can say, I'm going to feel this way for 2 days. I'm going to wallow. I'm going to eat too much ice cream or whatever the case is. I'm going to binge shameless and be a lump and feel bad and feel every emotion. I'm going to cry. I'm going to scream into a pillow. But after those 2 days, you need to flip that mindset. You've had your time. It did not serve you. Likely you did not progress in those 2 days as far as your business goals. I'm sure you were not like, a handful of Kleenex in one hand and a signed contract in the other. Like it doesn't really, that energy, it doesn't feed into progress. It doesn't feed into moving forward. So if you want to move forward, you are going to have to make a near physical decision to operate and live in that place.
Mm-hmm.
This positivity begets positivity. It begets progress. It begets achieving your goals. From a logistical standpoint, you cannot achieve your goals if you are wallowing. And I'm not discounting depression. I'm not discounting mental illness. Those are entirely different things. I'm talking about people who are not struggling with those things and who are choosing to be negative, because we do that. I did it for decades. It was huge victim mentality. Why don't people like me? I'm not a lucky one. I'm not supposed to have a family. I'm not supposed to be successful. I'm not supposed to do these things. These are the lies that we tell ourselves that turn into our own self-beliefs. And they're dangerous. Our voice can be powerful, and it can be helpful. It can move us forward, or it can be dangerous, and it can hold us right in place or dig us in even deeper. For me, I was so tired of struggling. I was so tired. I was so tired of waking up every day and not liking my life and not liking my spouse and not liking my choice of what I was doing for a living. And then when I got sick, I had no choice because the universe just slapped me right upside the head.
Right.
It's like, are you going to take notice now?
Right.
You know, like we've been subtly telling you all these years, this would be a good path for you. And my fear was driving me. My need to control my life was driving me. Free falling out of control gave me a different sort of appreciation for the perceived control that we have. And it enabled me to say, no, we don't have any control. But today, I think I can do this. I'm going to plan on doing this. Of course, I'm going to build in a plan B in case the universe says, well, that's really funny. You have a plan. It's an optimistic preparation.
Right.
You know, it's really important to make sure that you are optimistically preparing for your next greatest goal. And so, as soon as I said, I'm not a victim because I say I'm not a victim, it doesn't mean I didn't have a certain degree of participation in negative events where I own my behavior. I will own my behavior all day long. I'm not going to own anybody else's, but I will own my behavior. And it doesn't mean that unkind treatment hasn't been sent my way, abuse, etc. I can acknowledge that I was the recipient, but I will not call myself a victim of that. That's a powerful mind shift because it returns your power to you.
Exactly. That's very true. And yeah, and when people are feeling powerless, a lot of times they will overcompensate to feel like they have the power back, and that can often mean abusing others and brutalizing others, or just being brutal even in language, not even just physically, but in other ways as well, to kind of recapture this power they think they don't have, or other behaviors that people will go to when they're not really ready to look within themselves to see what's going on and what can I do about it. So that's very true, and very important, I think, especially in terms of someone, having to manage an illness and manage your self-care, and also in terms of being an entrepreneur, because that is really an unpredictable state compared to what we think is predictable. People think, oh, well, I'll go to a job and, I'll be there for X amount of years and whatever. And then to come into this other world where it's not quite so nice and neat.
It's a beautiful disaster. Right?
That really describes it. It's true. That really describes it. So, you really have to have all of that together in your mind and heart, and you're always finding out new things about yourself. I think that's one of the things that's really so interesting about it. But, for anybody listening who's wondering, I really would like to start a business, but I'm really not sure, is there anything you recommend to them?
Yes, just get started. And so now when I say that, there are all kinds of different people who have all kinds of different thought processes. So I have a child, he's going to be turning 21 now. And when he was younger, and he's still managing this, he has pretty severe ADHD and also a processing disorder. So he's able to verbalize very well, but then tell him to write it down and get it out on paper, and it was just very taxing for him to do. So you cannot tell a child who is unable to focus, or who has a hard time focusing, or is overwhelmed by multiple tasks, to just go. He doesn't know where to begin. So I used to tell him, go clean your room. It's a disaster in there. Go clean it up. And he would sit in his room and kind of spin in circles, and I would come back and check on him maybe in 10 minutes or whatever. And he was just, nothing had been done. And I had to learn how his brain worked. He needed to know a place to start. So I would say, all right, go pick up all the clothes and put them in this basket. You have to do the same thing with your business. Whether you're a person that can take a blank page and turn it into a beautiful layout, and that's a gift that you have, that's wonderful. Then you do know where to start. If you're in tune with what you want to do and your gut, which is that very warm feeling that you get when you make the right decision for yourself, that's where you start. If you're a person who has a very hard time picking what to do first, make a list and pick an item. Pick the item that is most advantageous to you in terms of what you need at the moment. Do you need greater financial streams coming into your business? Pick that item. Do you need, greater inspiration in your life? Do you need to connect more with your mission? Pick that item. So we have to tailor the message to people who want to start their business with what makes sense to them so that they can take that step. But remember, that first step is going to be a step right into a frickin' mud puddle. It's not going to be, I'm stepping onto this pavement, this smooth, cool pavement, and the 2-mile marker is set for me and I know what's coming up. No, don't put your dressy boots on for this. Get your old sneakers that are worn out, put those on. That's what you're going to need when you start your business, but you need to start somewhere and use one of those options to make that decision.
We'll be right back after this short break. This is Women Entrepreneurs Radio, available on dbccoach.podomatic.com and iTunes. So people really have to decide what their priority is, it sounds like. Instead of, when you start a business, I think a lot of times people are totally confused. If they've never done it before, they don't know what they're supposed to do. There's a lot of people out here telling them what they need to focus on. And they may be like, well, should I do this, or should I find my niche, or should I do this, should I do that? So I can definitely see where there'd be a lot of confusion for the average person. But it sounds like you're saying they have to find that priority and start there.
They have to find that priority in addition to finding their passion. It's the priority within the passion. Your business is not going to my mind, will not succeed if you are not passionate about it, because motivation is something that's totally different from drive. Drive is going to keep you going. It's the stamina that you need. You return to it time and time and time and time again. So whatever the passion is, then you're going to monetize that passion. Assuming it's not going to be something like, I like to sit by the ocean and scribble my name on seashells. Like, that's not what we're talking about. That's called a hobby.
Oh my God. I'm sure someone somewhere is trying that right now.
They're just heartbroken listening to, oh, great.
Right back to the drawing board.
Yes, exactly. My vision board is all wrong now.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's true. We have to look at it a little differently than that. Yes, I totally agree.
Yes, we do. Yes.
That's true. Yeah. I think, and what you're saying about passion is so important because people, will try to do something. I know myself, and you're trying to follow maybe what someone else has done and think, well, I should do that because that seems popular or this seems popular. And then there you are doing something you really don't feel too excited about. Maybe you don't even really know what to do with it, but you're just following the crowd, following what seems to be the thing to do, right. But there's no real commitment there.
No, and following what everybody is doing. And, I wrote an article about this on Marketing Insiders. It's about entrepreneurs need to follow the beat of their own drum. Mm-hmm. So, yes, there are all kinds of businesses popping up all over the place. Mm-hmm. And they are on trend and everybody wants to capitalize on them, but it might not be your fit. Maybe within that offering, there is a micro niche that you could serve, for example. But it seems that people, and I've dealt with this, and I'm sure you've dealt with this, they want to know the secret. What is the secret of success? It goes back to the Michael J. Fox movie, The Secret of My Success. Mm-hmm. Sleeping with the boss's wife. That's not the secret. That's not the secret. That's not.
All right, so now don't try that one, okay? Everybody listening?
Yes.
Just leave that alone.
Right. It's an example. The point is that nobody else has your history, your experience, your passion, your insight, your life lessons that make up the makeup of who you are. Nobody else has that. Nobody else, an English teacher of mine in college would say, when I went to him and I said, well, I'm going to write this story, but I'm really worried because somebody else wrote it. I wrote a novel about a serial killer's wife. It only took me 8 years. So lazy. I think there was like 12 iterations of it, but I learned a lot. I learned a ton of it. I learned experience that is not translatable to the next person because they haven't gone through that trial. And that applies to, people who are my friends or business compadres or whatever. It's the same thing. We all have our own experiences. We all have our own concerns. We all have our own challenges. And we reframe how we talk about challenges. For example, I don't say issues, I don't say problems. Those are negative and they imply that we stop right there. We can't progress any further. So my point back to this whole thing is nobody else has your experience. Nobody else has your insight. My college professor said, write the book because it is your story. Nobody else is going to tell it the way that you tell it, whether you're a graphic designer, you're a funnel expert, you're a copywriter, whatever you are, your talent is signature to you. So we need to stop competing with each other. We need to be open to say, maybe this isn't the best project for me. I am working on only one, and it'll be my last one. Nonfiction project with a woman who has become my friend and my surrogate grandma. She's 87 years old, and she's writing about love and murder. And it is spicy. And it is fantastic. And it is not my overall focus of where I want to put my work, because I'm the entrepreneur's editor and that's how I'm marketing myself. Mm-hmm. But I had to learn that, I had to make that choice and then say, okay, maybe this isn't the right decision for me. So then after that, because the universe is just such a practical joker, they sent me other nonfiction prospects that I passed on to other people because I learned that's not what my focus is. So it's okay to pass that on. If you're a person who can close multiple people in multiple markets and medias, you have a gift and you almost have a responsibility to share that gift with other people in your network, and you build each other up that way. It's really an amazing, powerful circle that you create.
That's true. I agree. And you can really make connections, and also if something comes up that you don't really do or don't want to do or whatever, then you're like, oh yeah, I know someone who does X or whatever, because you really, doing that doesn't detract from what you're doing. It doesn't detract from you, because there is enough for everyone. It's not like you have to hold on to everything, even if it's not what you want or something that you're not really going to do properly because you're afraid to let it go. Right. So you really have to have a different kind of mindset. And I think a trust and a belief in, as you said, in what what you can do, but also a trust that, yes, I can turn this away or share this with someone else because it really isn't what I should be doing. It's not the best thing that I should be doing right now, and that takes a lot. I think it takes a lot of people really believing in themselves and working on themselves to know that they can do that and it's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it speaks to the mindset. We don't want to say no because we're afraid.
Yeah.
That means that's it. It's done. I'm not grateful, and so I'm not going to be receiving any more jobs or referrals. And that is simply not the case, especially when you operate out of an abundance mindset. That is not the case. The abundance mindset is very channeled into what serves you so that you can continue to serve in your best way, in your best power and purpose. So it's okay to say, I'm not feeling it. This isn't my bag, but you know what? I know somebody who loves this. I know somebody who would be great for this. And then you have all kinds of warm fuzzies that come from handing off a job. Additionally, you can create passive income for yourself through referrals, and do that back and forth, because I'm a big proponent of clever, shrewd working together, whether it's bartering or sharing referrals or whatever. But I'm also a huge proponent of paying people at least market value. I'm not, I'm just not big into like, let's go across seas and pay $5. But no, I have to sleep at night. So no.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Because people just want to be paid for their work, as they have said, well, this is the value to me. And, I want to get compensated for that because I'm providing a service for you. And I think that's very important. And when you are a person who creates things, you really see that, when you're creating something and you put the care into it and then you value it, that's something that's, really important to you. And I think that also made me think of a blog post I was reading about how authors will often market their books as, say, this is on sale, 99 cents, or it's free. And, I fall into that pit myself, I can honestly say, the same way. And it's like, well, why are you marketing your book in that way? Why aren't you marketing the value of the book or the story or whatever. And I'm like, that's right. A lot of us are doing that. I guess we fall into that trap because that's kind of what's around us all the time, like sales and all that kind of marketing that we're always exposed to. And now we're taking our work that we feel so strongly about and making it into this bargain.
Yes, absolutely. And that is not the abundance mindset.
Yes.
It's almost apologizing for saying, I'm sorry for being creative and for charging for my work, but if you could just scrape together 99 cents, this would help me. And again, I apologize for bothering you, but I just need one hair short of $1. Thank you so much. This is not, you are valuable. Sometimes I work with a gentleman named Cole, and Cole is a person who, and I'm going to try and pronounce his name. His last name, and Cole, I apologize. It's Van de Woestein. So I work with him. He is like a 20-something-year-old marvel. Just a steel trap for a mind and fearless. He's just amazing, this adventurer. He put himself purposely into rock bottom to enable himself to propel himself forward. And I call him a pricing coach because Cole will say, well, how much would you charge for this? And I tell him and he goes, oh, what are you doing? Don't do it. No. You at least need to charge X or whatever. And it's good to work with those people who speak to the reason that you operate from a scarcity mindset. Oh, I think, from a standpoint of supply and demand, if I'm only available for X amount of time, the people are going to run in the door and they're going to stream over to my, they're actually not, unless you are like Kardashian. They're just, So here's a question for you. Are you a Kardashian, yes or no? So depending on how you answer, can you use the scarcity mindset, yes or no? That's it. It's formulaic. It's easy to remember.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's another excellent point, because of course when we see all these pitches and emails and things come, it's always, limited time and I've only got 2 or 3 left. And after you see everybody do that, after a while, it's like, I can call it before I even finish reading it. Cause I know what they're going to say next. Okay, now here we go. There's only 2 left. You better get it now.
Yes, and then they're going to say, oh, there was such a demand.
Yes.
I'm rerunning my special right now, when in reality, there was a box of books sitting at their feet. There's not such a demand. That's just what people know.
Right.
But
yes.
you position yourself as having very scant value.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so that's not the objective. That's not the marketing. You don't write that down. My marketing objective is to make sure people know I provide little value. That is not what we're doing.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's not a good idea.
No. And so if you think about it, if you think about the decisions that you're making in your business, what does that say to you? If you could sit down and say, I made this in my business today. I made this decision in my business today. And it translates into being this objective. And you look at that objective, and would you still make that decision? Sometimes, a lot of time, all the time, it is about stripping the emotions out of the decision and looking at it logistically. Is this going to move me forward? If you're terrified to take that step, focus on the action. This is where I am today. I'm sitting on the couch. I feel the fabric underneath my legs. I am writing this email. I am hitting send. I am not steeped in the emotions of what sending this email means. I am going through the physical motions, completing the task, and then afterwards you can fall apart. But not in the moment. You need to suspend those emotions in the moment so that you can get your tasks done.
That makes sense. That's a very good point, actually. And yeah, there's a lot that you have to, I guess, stay aware of, and aware of your own self, and things you may be thinking, feeling, and the things that we say to ourselves without even realizing what we're saying and words we're using. So all of that is so important for you to keep moving forward, and just to be in a certain mindset, and to really be productive and successful, however you define success, because we can really beat ourselves up or have the kind of thoughts that lead us in a bad direction, I guess you could say. If we're looking at what we create and saying, oh, it's only worth this much because everybody else is doing it, so I guess I have to do this too. I have to market in this way because everybody else seems to be doing that, and then it's like, well, why?
How's this serving me?
Right.
As a disabled and chronically ill entrepreneur, this is an entirely different game. Your day looks different. Your expectations are different. And you have to operate from a standpoint of compassionate self-belief. It's compassion combined with expectation. So compassionate expectation for yourself, meaning that you set the expectation, but your journey looks very, very different. And I'm sorry, but everybody has something. Everybody has something, whether it's mental illness, physical distress, ongoing chronic disease, disability. If you don't have something, you better buckle up, Cupcake, because you're going to get something. Okay. So that's not like a, warning, the Grim Reaper's coming. That's not, but you will have some sort of challenge that you are going to need to learn to mediate, overcome, adapt to, and live with as a really rude frickin' roommate in your body. You're gonna just, and in learning to do that, it's very empowering. So I try not to be critical of myself. If I've tried my absolute level best every single day, and that changes depending on how I feel. If I have a super crappy day where I can hardly walk, that kind of scope of accomplishment looks very different than a day where I'm like, wow, this is what it's like to be 85% healthy. That's a nice reminder, and I do much more. So keep pushing yourself, but be forgiving also. And we're not critical. We're not saying, oh, I'm dumb or I suck or I can't do this. That's not it. That's not self-serving positive messages, a message for yourself that doesn't do anything for you, but sets you back. So we have to be careful pushing ourselves to quote unquote hustle and grind, but also being kind to ourselves.
Right. So, for the people that you work with, and if you're working with a lot of entrepreneurs who are just very high powered, very busy, working with men entrepreneurs who may have a totally different energy, how do you line that up with your, your illness, your way of life, the things that you have to now accommodate in order to get the job done?
Oh, this has been a learning process for me, because I certainly did not set out to let anybody know I was sick. And then I spoke with a coach one day, because I was still in an angry phase, and I was still in a phase where my body betrayed me, and I was very upset about it. And he said, would you ever tell the butterfly to turn back into a caterpillar? And I said, no, I wouldn't. And then, of course, I wrote an article about it, because you can't control me, right? But I moved that will right. That's just how it works. So from that standpoint, because he said, I would like to see you step into that more. I would like to see you take ownership of that more. I ripped the mask right off my face. This is what it is. Since then, I did a Facebook Live with no makeup. And as women, that's a terrifying thing, like glaringly apparent what concealer does. But I owned it. I owned it because I wanted people to know I am doing my best every day. So if somebody says, oh, I want to work with you, we sign a contract, we get going, I say this is your deadline, or I'm going to complete this for you, my track record is 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, my business has mainly run on referrals.
Mm-hmm.
And I had established myself to that point where I could say, hey, I'm keeping up with you, but you don't know what my day looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know that sometimes I might need to take a 2-hour nap in the middle of the day and then get up and continue working after dinner. You don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
All you care about and all your client cares about is that you do what you say you're going to do.
Right.
It doesn't matter what that looks like. It doesn't matter if you have insomnia at 2-3 in the morning because you have nerve pain and that's when you're working. And then you go back to bed for a couple hours or whatever the case is. Nobody is that deeply vested or interested in what your day looks like. They don't care. They just want...
Right. They want the work done.
They just want the work done.
Yeah.
So that was a huge piece of it. You can do this. You absolutely can. You can put yourself out there as a person of value, as a business of value, even if you are struggling. And you can share as much or as little as you wish to. Sharing and starting the nonprofit Sick Biz, which the focus is chronically ill and disabled entrepreneurs. We help them through hacks, resources, help, and hope. And it's the company that I wanted when I was sick, when I am sick, but it's the company that I wanted when I first was starting out. And so we're continuing to build that and to give people a voice. There's a huge audience for this. And the reason is because by 2020, there will be 157 million chronically ill people in the U.S. And that's the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, where that statistic comes from. So there will be people that find themselves unable to work. There will be people that don't understand where they can go to get grants or funding or if they qualify for things. And I want that to be a central and global resource for people. So the first thing that I did was I shared that with some of my closer clients, what my condition was, whatever. And it was interesting because I started getting feedback from people saying, I'm sick too.
Oh, wow.
I'm sick too. I've been sick since birth, or I'm sick too. Sometimes I have to use a wheelchair as well when I go out. You know, and then I hadn't traveled. I went to the beach. I went to the ocean this year with my daughter. We live in Minnesota, so we traveled to California. And we got there and set up my wheelchair. That was my first Facebook Live video. You could see the sand on the wheels of my wheelchair as I'm looking out over the ocean in Long Beach. And it was tremendously empowering, not just for me, but for other people. And so if you're a person who's hiding, you know, I'm not saying I'm you and I recommend this. For anybody that I work with, go deep into yourself for your comfort. Nobody else is you. Nobody else can make this decision. For me, I wanted to start to break the stigma of what it looked like. Did I get looks when I went to the beach? I do not care. I assumed they were just looking at my fabulous 40s pinup bathing suit. And were intoxicated with, you know, so whatever.
Right.
But you can do it. We focus on adaptation, not limitation. No, and that's the careful use of these words. You are not a disease, you have a disease. You are not a disability, you have a disability. You do not have limitations. You need to adapt. You need to put in place adaptations. It's all of these different ways of encouraging our mindset to flourish in a positive manner.
Right. That's true. That's true. And I think that also part of the, I guess, advantage of digital businesses and things with technology more and more is it does give more people access to things that whereby there was a time when maybe they couldn't, or they weren't able to get to a certain place, or maybe a job is reluctant hire someone because they think, oh, there's something wrong, and so the person may not have had that opportunity. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons, but at least in this kind of environment, if you do want to do something where maybe you don't have the mobility for some reason, then the door isn't closed to you to get out there and do what you really want to do. And I think that's one of the things that's really terrific about technology and how it really can be applied to help people who may not have had those options, and also to kind of show that you don't have to be locked away or hidden away or hide yourself, as I think was the mindset for a very long time in our cultures. People feeling like they're not supposed to be out there, or not supposed to show that maybe they're not feeling the way they're quote unquote supposed to. I think it's great to know that can hopefully be put away forever.
Yes. But we, as the community, change those perceptions. The wellies, as I call them, well people, are not the ones who should be, yes, they can be advocating, they can be allies, absolutely, but they should not be speaking for us.
Right.
I don't want someone speaking for me and saying, Hilary needs this, let's do this and that. Excuse me. I might walk like I'm 2 glasses in, but that does not mean. I'm getting a shirt that says day drinker on it with a big thumbs up.
Oh my God, you'll definitely attract a crowd with that one.
Yes, I will.
You have a lot of company.
and we do not want. We need to be able to say, "I'm going to own it."
Yes,
I'm going to own my condition. This is what I want. I'm going to ask for it, and we have a responsibility to educate people. I know it's tiring. I know sometimes people will come up to me and say, "Oh, did you have surgery?" No, you nosy little. I have a disease, and now I'm relishing in the fact that you are uncomfortable and rude. So, but we have that responsibility. Do we want to see the change? We have to be the change.
Yes.
We have to use our voices. And I want to invite people who are afflicted in whatever way they might be. And this includes addiction. It includes short-term disability from undergoing treatment or something of that nature. I want to invite you to be open to receiving new messages about your mission in life. New messages about turning your pain into purpose. Just be open to it. Stop blaming. Stop thinking that you are immune from suffering or disease or misfortune. That was one of the most powerful things that I ever went through, was the day that I started laughing at myself. Am I a deity? No. So why did I ever think that my vision of growing up to be this sassy old woman just sashaying around in, silk drapery and a bunch of rings was going to with this just platinum silver hair, standing on this with the banister and looking down about whatever. So why did I? It was a very involved vision. Okay?
I see.
I would trip from room to room in my mansion. So, who was I to think that I was so dang special that nothing could befall me? That was a ridiculous assumption, because thinking that about myself put myself above the suffering of others, that in some way, shape, or form they had it coming. They deserved it. They did X, Y, and Z. I should be here. No, I shouldn't be here. I'm a human being, just like anybody else.
Right.
So sometimes the universe has to smack you upside the head to get you to listen to what's in your heart. Think about how you can incorporate your personal circumstances into meeting your mission in life. That's all I'm saying. I know it sucks to be in a wheelchair. Okay. I know it does. I know it's a hard shift to make, self-identification. I know people who are incontinent. I know that is very, very difficult. But you are not your body. You are your soul. So remember that. And remember your experience and putting that into play for the rest of your life.
Very, very powerful and very true. And I think what's also very important about what you're saying is that it just seems to me, once in terms of entrepreneurship and when I kind of started to pay more attention to it and came out of corporate around 2005 or so, was looking at the images that people would create about their business or whatever, the people who seem to be the ones that we should follow, and their life is looking so glamorous and everybody's got so much money and so all so beautiful, and a lot of that pulls you in because your everyday life is not quite looking that way, or you just came out of a corporate situation and you were just tired, drained, whatever, and it's like, oh my God, this looks wonderful. But then at the same time, it's in some ways a setup for, I would say, a lot of disappointment, because even those people's lives aren't flawless. I mean, we'd like to believe that, but it's not, So I find myself wanting more of seeing people as they are and saying, yeah, I'm going through it, but this is also what's a part of my life. It's not all airbrushed and beautiful and we're always smiling and there's never anything wrong. I guess there's just people who that's going to appeal to, and that's fine. But it's not what I want to see anymore, because after going through some things myself, no. I'm okay to see that things are not perfect, because they're not anyway, but you don't have to put on that facade to sell me. That's not even going to sell me anymore. I'm in a different place now, so I want to see that realness about you and the sincerity about what it is you're doing and presenting and selling, because I can relate to that. As you said, I can relate to that. That's human. It's not some perfect mask you're putting on because you're trying to get me to spend money with you to do something. It's real. So now I'm going to be more likely to trust you and trust what you're saying.
Absolutely. And the emotional connection, that's what at the base is marketing and advertising.
Yes.
It's creating that emotional connection. If you're a sanitized Facebook post, you will not create that connection because you are not a relatable person that people can attach to. They're likely going to detach and say, okay, whatever, you live off in La La Land.
Right.
At the same time, when you're talking about your struggles, and I have people talk about this all the time, I'm going through this, I'm going through that, I'm going through XYZ, whatever the case is, the magnetism of people tuning into you comes from the ability to say, I'm going through this, I'm learning, but I am ending, I don't want to say on a positive note, but I am trying to get something out of this experience versus I'm going through this. It sucks. I'll never get out. I can't believe in it. Nobody is going to be inspired by that. If you're a person who is trying to, I guess there's such a thing as telling too much of a personal truth. There is a delicate balance. It's not going to look like my life sucks and I had 17 glasses of beer and my life still sucks. I hope I don't choke on my own vomit tonight. That is not an inspiring post. An example might be something like, I'm working at overcoming this eating disorder. It's very, very difficult, but I'm grateful for my good days. This is what I've learned so far. And you end on a note of optimism. You end on a hopeful note. You always want to end on that hopeful note. Some of our most triggering and painful experiences will bring us closer to where we are supposed to be. They bring us closer to our purpose. They bring us closer to the ability to teach other people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
true.
That's kind of how you want to phrase it, especially if you're looking to become an influencer. You're not going to have anybody follow you or subscribe to what you're believing or whatever the case is if you are a Debbie Downer. And I'm not saying that that is not a reality. I'm saying if you are sharing that with the greater public, there is almost a formula to sharing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. And yes, and if you're a business person who wants to make that connection and really wants people to feel that you're real and what you're doing is not fakery, then yes, how you present that is going to be very important. You know, how you present yourself and how you present what you're going through, as opposed to always being negative. Well, you're going to line up with people just like that. And if that's what you want, and you can go over there and be with them. But that's tiring and stressful and obnoxious. So if that's your thing, then go there and wallow in that. But when you're trying to make these connections, that's not exactly the way to go. So hopefully if you are doing something like that, or maybe you have some more self-awareness now after hearing this conversation, you may check and see how you're coming across and what you're presenting to everyone. You know, this is such a fantastic conversation. I'm sure we can keep going on because I'm like, oh my goodness. So please share with everyone where they can find you and find out more about your work.
It's been a wonderful conversation, Deborah. Thank you so much. You can find me in a multitude of ways. So first, you can find me at sickbiz.com. I'm on Facebook under J. Hill Mark Writer. And you can find me for copywriting, editing, and book editing at jhillmark.com. If you are an entrepreneur or a disabled entrepreneur, chronically ill entrepreneur who would like to speak further and see if there are any ways that we can help you, you can also email us at sickbizco@gmail.com.
And you also have a podcast, don't you?
Oh my goodness gracious. It's brand new, so I always forget to mention it. How terrible is that? So marketers, listen to me. Don't mention what you're okay.
Don't feel bad. I forget things myself. I forget my books, and it's like, huh?
Yeah, well, we've come full circle. Right back to walking in the room and forgetting why the heck we're
right.
So the podcast is Sick Biz Buzz. You can find it on Apple iTunes or wherever podcasts are available. Certainly subscribe if you like. It is the sickest podcast for chronically ill and disabled entrepreneurs and the only podcast of its kind. We just wrapped episode 8. I'm having way too much fun. You know.
Yes. I think podcasts are really also a great way for you to network, especially if you are introverted, which I am. So being able to have conversations with different people and talk to people from all over it's just fantastic. You know, I think that to me is one of the best things about being able to do that is to make those connections and have those conversations and hear what people are doing. So I would definitely recommend that to anyone who's kind of, you know, feels like they're not sure how to get out there and maybe just wants to get started making connections. That is certainly something you could do to meet other people and hear their stories and for you to build your network. So, well, that's great. I'm so glad that you started that. I'm going to have to listen in because I think that will be very, very informative. And I think the good thing about it is you don't necessarily have to be going through that yourself to learn from that, because then you can have a better understanding and empathy and thankfulness. If you aren't going through this at this time, you can understand how grateful to be that you have what you have, or you have, you know, your health, or you are in a situation where you could say, you know, I spend so much time being mad about what I don't have. And, you know, I can be happy for what I do have and not take any of it for granted. So there's a lot to learn there.
There is. And it's the old saying of, if you could take your problems and someone else's problems and throw them into the center of the room, Would you pluck out your own problems or someone else's? And the majority of time, you would take your own problems back.
Right. Because you don't, and a lot of times, as we, we've been discussing, you may not even know what someone else is going through, because they may not show that. So you assume, oh, it's just you going through this, but you don't know what other people are carrying. So that is so, so true. Hilary, I'm just going to ask, because I know we've covered so much, but do you have any final thoughts to share with us as we end the show?
Well, I want to tell you, I am publishing a book next year.
Great.
I'm super excited about it. It's called Sick Success, and it'll be with Sound Wisdom Publishing. It's the entrepreneur's prescriptions for turning pain into purpose. So I'm really looking to provide people with prescriptive content that they can apply to their own lives, and just keep going. It's not perfect. Just keep going. But if you keep doing the work, you can turn into a 12-year overnight success, a 5-year overnight success. You will eventually get there. Keep going.
And with that, I think we can wrap this up, because I couldn't make that any better. So, Hilary, I'm so glad that you joined me today. I know I'm so glad that you were able to hang in there, because you were supposed to. It's like an hour, a day later.
It was wonderful. And you have the most contagious laugh I have ever. Put it on a laugh track. Just put it out there.
I should.
You should. It's joyful. I love it.
I'm like, okay, how can I monetize this? Okay.
Yeah. How can I monetize my laugh? That's amazing. That's amazing.
Exactly. I mean, come on, I'm like, hey, and these days that, you really can just do your thing, and you never know, how you can use something that you're taking for granted. Just go out there and put it out there. Hey, why not? So, well, thank you so much, Hilary. This has been great. I really, really enjoyed it, and wish you much success with your podcast and your book. I'll be looking out for that as well. It's really exciting.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I just had an absolute blast, and you are just a wonderful, insightful person.
Well, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. So, everyone, I know you enjoyed it. Make sure you share this on social media, and as I said, subscribe to Women Entrepreneurs Radio, and definitely, give feedback on what you thought, and get in touch with Hilary and check out what she's doing, listen to her podcast, and, share this with any friends or relatives if you think, really get a lot out of our conversation, and really appreciate that. So once again, to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. I'm glad you could join me today. See you again next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs and on the website, WomenEntrepreneurSecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on dbcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.